A storm of regulation, not rain, now threatens Ireland. The real turbulence is political, as the European Union has issued a firm ultimatum. Ireland must enact sweeping hate speech laws by July 7th, or face serious consequences in the European Court of Justice. Brussels isn't simply making a suggestion. This is a direct order that cuts to the heart of Irish sovereignty. The EU insists on uniform standards, demanding Ireland align its laws with the rest of Europe, even if it means overriding local values and traditions. For many Irish citizens, this feels like an assault on national identity. The people have already voiced their rejection of these laws, yet Brussels presses on, fueling a wave of protests and deepening the sense of being dictated to from afar. At stake is more than just legal compliance. It's the future of free speech in Ireland and across Europe. As Ireland stands at this crossroads, the decision it makes will send ripples throughout the continent, testing the balance between European unity and the right of nations to chart their own course. If you want more engaging deep dives into breaking news, politics, sociology, economics, and social policy, make sure to like and subscribe to SmartoBrains. In 2008, the EU introduced its Framework Decision, a binding legal measure designed to ensure all member states criminalize hate speech and the denial or gross trivialization of crimes like genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. This decision meant that countries including Ireland had to update their national laws to meet these EU-wide standards, effectively shifting key decisions about speech and criminal law from Dublin to Brussels. For Ireland, this was seen as a significant loss of sovereignty, as it limited the country's ability to set its own rules on free expression and criminal justice. Critics argue that the framework's broad definitions could stifle open debate and dissent, core elements of a healthy democracy. Free speech is vital because it allows citizens to challenge authority, expose wrongdoing, and participate fully in public life. Today, the ongoing dispute highlights the delicate balance between protecting people from hate and preserving national autonomy and democratic freedoms. Ireland's legislative troubles began in 2022, igniting a fierce national debate not just about the law, but about the very soul of Irish society, its long tradition of open debate, dissent, and the right to speak one's mind. That year, the government introduced a sweeping hate speech bill, aiming to align Irish law with new EU directives and show Ireland's commitment to combating hate in all its forms. The bill expanded protected categories, covering not just race and religion but also gender identity and other characteristics, and was meant to modernize outdated legislation that many felt no longer reflected the realities of Irish society. But instead of uniting the country, it triggered a massive backlash. Across Ireland, people from all walks of life, artists, writers, religious leaders, and ordinary citizens took to the streets, defending what they saw as a core Irish value: the freedom to speak, question, and even offend. Critics from across the political spectrum warned that the bill's vague definitions could criminalize everything from religious views to debates on gender and even private conversations. Many invoked Ireland's history of fighting for civil liberties, arguing that the right to free speech was hard-won and should not be surrendered lightly. The idea that private material on a phone or computer could be investigated by authorities struck a deep nerve, recalling darker times when privacy and personal freedoms were not guaranteed in Ireland. Protests erupted outside the Parliament, with passionate speeches and heated debates echoing Ireland's long tradition of public discourse. The government, facing a potential political disaster, was forced to reconsider its approach and split the bill. The most controversial sections, those that threatened free speech and privacy, were shelved, at least for the time being, in response to the overwhelming public outcry. What remained was a much-reduced 2024 Act, which focused only on making racist motivation an aggravating factor in sentencing, a far cry from the original sweeping proposal. For many, this was more than a legislative compromise. It was a victory for Irish values, a reminder that the people's voice could still shape the law, and a reaffirmation of Ireland's deep-rooted respect for free expression. But this move set up a direct clash with Brussels, as the EU expected full implementation of its speech regulations. Ireland had, in effect, rejected the core of the EU's speech policing agenda, choosing instead to defend its own traditions of open debate, hard-won rights, and individual liberty. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test not just the law, but the very identity of Ireland as a nation that values free speech and spirited debate. The question now loomed large. Would Ireland's compromise hold, or would Brussels ultimately force its hand and reshape Irish law in its own image? Brussels was unimpressed by Ireland's partial compliance, viewing it as a stubborn streak perhaps, but also a sign of Ireland's independent spirit. In October 2024, the EU sent a letter of formal notice, launching infringement proceedings, a move that felt, to many, like a challenge to Ireland's right to chart its own course. The letter accused Ireland of failing to criminalize public incitement to hatred and of ignoring rules against denying or trivializing genocide, issues that cut to the heart of European values, but also raise questions about who decides what can be said on Irish soil. The EU's complaint was precise and technical, showing it had watched Ireland's every move, like a referee at Croke Park, whistle in hand, ready to call a foul. This was a clear escalation. The dispute moved from political debate to legal enforcement, raising the stakes for Ireland's sovereignty. The Irish government's attempt to appease both sides had failed, leaving leaders caught between Brussels and the will of the Irish people. In May 2025, the EU issued a final reasoned opinion, giving Ireland 2 months to comply, a ticking clock echoing through Leinster House. The message was unmistakable. Partial measures are not enough. Brussels demands total adherence, but at what cost to Ireland's self-determination? Ireland now faces a direct challenge to its democratic process, a test of sovereignty that will resonate from the halls of the Dial to every corner of the island. At the heart of this conflict lies a profound ideological divide, one that goes beyond mere policy and touches on the very identity of a nation. The EU prioritizes collective security, believing hate speech threatens social harmony and must be policed. For Brussels, these laws are essential tools against intolerance, aiming to create a safer, more unified Europe. But in Ireland, the debate runs deeper than legal definitions. Many argue that free speech is not just a right, but a cornerstone of Irish identity, a hard-won freedom rooted in centuries of struggle against censorship and foreign rule. Supporters of free speech insist that the right to offend, to challenge authority, and to question the status quo is vital for a healthy democracy. They argue that open debate, not censorship, defeats bad ideas, and that silencing voices only drives division underground. The EU, however, wants uniformity across all member states, seeing legal differences as a threat to the union's cohesion and values. For many Irish people, resistance is about more than just laws. It's about sovereignty, self-determination, and the right to shape their own society without foreign interference. This isn't just about statutes. It's about who governs Ireland, Dublin or Brussels. It's about whether Irish values and voices will be heard or drowned out by a distant bureaucracy. In this struggle, the meaning of being Irish is on the line, defending a tradition of debate, independence, and the belief that democracy thrives when every voice, even the controversial ones, can be heard. The struggle is over the soul of Irish democracy. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you support free speech, or do you value Irish sovereignty in this debate? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The EU's push for new hate speech laws has sparked a passionate debate in Ireland, one that goes beyond policy, touching the heart of Irish sovereignty and free expression. At a July 2025 meeting, Senator Sharon Keogan and Free Speech Ireland stood firm, arguing that Brussels shouldn't dictate what Irish people can say or think. Ken O'Flynn warned that laws dressed up as protection risk becoming tools of censorship, threatening the open debate that's central to Irish democracy. MEP Michael McNamara called the EU's approach misguided, saying it could criminalize personal opinions and chill honest discussion, something many Irish people value deeply. Barrister Louise de Bruyne voiced concern that activist groups, not the Irish public, could end up defining what counts as hate, silencing everyday debate on issues like gender and identity. ON2 leader Peadar Toibin criticized the lack of real debate, warning that when only one view is allowed, censorship becomes all too easy, and Irish voices are lost. These politicians from different backgrounds are coming together to defend not just free speech, but Ireland's right to decide its own future. Their message is clear. Protecting free speech is about protecting Irish identity and sovereignty. Ireland must not surrender its liberty to Brussels. Ireland's opt-in dilemma highlights the tension between national decision-making and EU obligations. In March 2024, the Irish government chose to opt in to the EU's hate speech measures, binding the country to the framework decision, despite having the option to stay out. Many argue this move ignored widespread public opposition, raising questions about democratic accountability and the right of the Irish people to shape their own laws. Legal experts like barrister Dominic Wilkinson believe that public rejection should have led to an opt-out, respecting the will of the people. Now, Ireland finds itself legally bound by EU law, but facing strong political resistance at home, a challenge to both sovereignty and national identity. The opt-in/opt-out system may appear to offer choice, but once a nation opts in, it can lose control over crucial decisions. The government is now caught between upholding EU commitments and honoring the Irish public's voice. This situation is a powerful reminder of the risks involved when national decision-making is handed over to Brussels. For Ireland, defending national identity and the right to self-determination has become even more challenging. The most chilling aspect of these laws is their ambiguity. What exactly is hatred, and who gets to decide? In Ireland, where open conversation and spirited debate are part of our national character, this question strikes at the heart of our values. The legislation hands this power to police and courts, leaving the definition of hate dangerously vague. This opens the door to arbitrary censorship, where what you say could be judged not by clear standards, but by shifting interpretations. Barrister Louise de Bruyn warns that activist groups could weaponize these laws, silencing debate on issues like gender, immigration, or tradition, topics that matter deeply to Irish society. Even a simple statement of biological fact or an honest opinion could trigger a police investigation. The risk is that ordinary people, your neighbors, friends, or family, could be targeted for expressing their views. The threat of prosecution will silence one side of contentious debates, undermining the Irish tradition of robust, respectful disagreement. Critics see this as part of a new architecture of censorship, with the Digital Services Act extending control online and making it even harder for Irish voices to be heard freely. The goal, whether intended or not, could become a seamless web of regulation, stifling unapproved thought and eroding the open exchange of ideas that has always defined Irish democracy. This is a direct threat to open debate and the health of our democracy. As a nation that cherishes free speech and the right to disagree, we must ask, who defines hate? And at what cost to our Irish values? As the July 7th deadline approaches, Ireland stands at a pivotal crossroads. The government faces a choice: yield to Brussels and pass new laws, or stand firm for the will of the Irish people. Resistance could mean a tough legal battle in the European Court of Justice, with the odds stacked high. Or perhaps delay and deflect, but Brussels' patience is wearing thin. This moment lays bare the tension between national democracy and EU technocracy. The question is clear: can Ireland chart its own course while part of a union that demands conformity? And can free speech truly thrive in an era of enforced harmony? The answers are being written in Dublin right now, by the choices of its people and leaders. The world is watching. Ireland's next steps will echo far beyond its shores. Now is the time for Irish voices to rise, to defend free speech and sovereignty. The future is unwritten, and together, Ireland can shape it with hope, courage, and conviction. If you want more engaging deep dives into breaking news, politics, sociology, economics, and social policy, don't forget to like and subscribe to Smarto Brains. Stay informed, stay curious.